Welcome to London, the libel capital of the world.
£600,000 in damages.
Where defending your name can take everything you own.
To decide the meaning of these words will have cost £200,000.
This is the High Court, where QCs and judges decide who pays and who gets paid.
If they said to me, you can have £1 million, that might be tempting.
Some people find what newspapers print or television says unforgivable.
Hey, Uri, what's this thing with Michael Jackson? Is it true?
Some people will do anything to set the record straight.
There are consequences if we were to lose. I mean, we might lose our house.
So why get yourself into this position? Why take the risk?
I want justice, and however much I don't want to go to court, I will.
So be careful what you say. See you in court may be the most expensive words you'll ever hear. Tonight, two people decide to fight back against the image they say the tabloids have given them. Cheryl Gascoigne feels her reputation has been trashed for years.
Print me, we're sorry, this was wrong, this is the truth, I'll be happy.
And she's suing 3 separate newspapers.
Worst case scenario is it goes away to trial and I don't sell the house. Where am I going to get 200 grand from in November?
Lembit Opik thinks he lost his seat in Parliament because the British press had made him a figure of fun, so he tries to take on the Sunday Times.
I mean, it's obvious that what they were printing about me was enough to influence at least 600 people.
But does he have a strong enough case?
We write to the Times, and the letter that they got back says, do you have the balls and are they big enough?
The libel laws in this country don't work. If you're me, you just end up at the receiving end. And me is 65 million people. The fact that I was on that programme 7 hours after losing my seat would tend to indicate a degree of shock, really.
And on Paul's team is one of the few politicians who knows what the future holds for him.
Actually, if you look at Have I Got News For You and you compare it to libel, you can really see the difference very starkly. Have I Got News For You is an entertainment programme where you are the object of fun. But it's not libelous.
The overwhelmingly indecisive outcome of the election. In fact, we only know one result for sure. Don't we, Lembit?
Can we get on with this? I've actually got an appointment with the job centre in about half an hour.
They phoned earlier, they cancelled.
With libel, there isn't that entertainment, there isn't that comic intent. There is simply a malicious criticism.
It does give you an idea of the amount of stuff that is potentially defamatory.
In particular, Lembit wants his lawyer Charlotte Harris's advice on an article in the Sunday Times written immediately after his defeat. He finds it offensive, but is it defamatory enough to sue?
Lembit dumped and Jackie ditched. What a top night. Congratulations to the voters of Montgomeryshire for that well-aimed meteor that they sent crashing into Lembit Opik's misshapen head. I mean, that's abuse. Huge righteous swing of 13.2% against a guitar-strumming Estonian loon. What would you do if, for instance, you'd replace that word, and this is an exercise I do, if it said black, if it said Jew, if it said, you know, anything else, how would that work? If it said Arab, you know, it wouldn't be right.
Lembit may feel it is damaging to his reputation, but Charlotte has to prove the meaning of the words used.
Crap Romanian pop stars. The use of the word Romanian there was deeply insulting. Not saying it's defamatory, saying it's abusive, and it's part of the tone of it. Sian Lloyd was probably right. What did Sian Lloyd say? She implied that he was alcoholic. She implied that he was unfaithful. She implied that he was some kind of, you know, narcissistic, delusional fool who didn't deserve to be with her or anyone else and wasn't fit to be an MP. So that is what we call the innuendo meaning. An innuendo meaning means that if you're a person who is aware of that, that's the meaning that you put in. That's the meaning by innuendo. So we look at that. Everyone involved in the election turned upon miscreants. So, definition of miscreant, somebody who's done something really dishonest. So he's been ousted because he's a bad person. So is that defamatory? Well, yes. So will I be writing? Yes. Will I say those are my meanings? Yes.
In a shock result, Lembit lost his seat after 13 years as Member of Parliament for Montgomeryshire. His majority of over 7,000 disappeared. Whether it's the media's fault or not is another matter.
We've got this pass now, ex-MP, sums it all up. To have limited access, it's not access all areas anymore. I can't just wander into the House of Commons and say, oh, and another thing, I was robbed.
It could be the case that I lost my seat, in part because of the libel and the defamation which has been written about me and which has accumulated to harm my career.
How's life with you? No, not bad, yeah, nice to see you again, that's all right.
You keep me busy?
Well, yeah, I suppose so. Job hunting. All right. How are you doing, my friend? No, this is Wes. Every time I see my friends do well, something in me dies. How are you? Hey, enjoy the back of the car. Hey, good to see you anyway, Minister.
Lembit's not the first politician to blame the press rather than his own actions for losing an election, but he may be the first to sue for it.
One of the things that the press often says, oh well, you've courted publicity, you want to be in the papers, so you just have to accept the consequences. It doesn't work like that. Where does it say in the book that it also entitles people to make up lies?
Political friends from all parties tend to agree.
You'd read stories, you'd laugh at them because they're so palpably nonsensical. And then somebody on the doorstep or in the pub or wherever would say, oh, I see such and such and such.
I've had that. And your reputation's all you've got. And when that is put into question by people that don't actually spend the time to find the truth out, then you are always on the back foot.
Yeah, it's immigration.
What a sad day it is if it turns out that the only way that these people are more respectful to you is if you spend the money and the time to actually sue them. Well, I'm not really sure that's a very good indictment of the British media, if it has come to that.
So there we are, then I got you lying bitch. It's basically saying that I've abused him, I've taken all his money, and now I want to see him dead. There's no balance in it whatsoever, it's just him in a rage and then printing his rage.
Should we just walk where we'd normally walk?
Cheryl Gascoigne lives in a large detached house in beautiful countryside just north of London. She moved here after the divorce from one of England's most infamous and richest footballers, Paul Gascoigne. But ever since the divorce, Cheryl's watched the tabloids print story after story about her, and she's had enough.
The what?
It's a nasty piece. It's on the front page. Cheryl's suing me for 100 grand, and she'll kill me before the booze. I mean, it's pretty ugly stuff. And a right-minded individual looking at that particular headline would go, oh my God, what a sort of money-grabbing bitch, effectively. And that is how she's been portrayed in the press. And, it's nasty stuff to have to deal with that every single day for years and years and years.
Cheryl's put up with headlines like that for 13 years, until now. Encouraged by the public reaction to the book she wrote 2 years ago, she's decided to confront the tabloid.
And by him and the News of the World printing that it's all lies, they've defamed my book. They've called me an out-and-out liar. So my whole book must be lies. What I want, I'll never get. I would say no money, print me, we're sorry, we're sorry, we're sorry, this was wrong, this is the truth, we're sorry, this is the truth. I'll be happy. I'd walk away without a penny.
Do you get nervous when you have to go to the lawyers?
I don't feel nervous, but like I said, if I go to court,
if you went to court,
if I get to court, I will be nervous because obviously it's scary. I've never been to court before.
Cheryl's hired a libel lawyer to sue the newspaper and brought her friend Adele along for moral support.
Hello, Patrick. How are you?
What are you doing?
Seeing Roddy.
Cheryl's not just here today to discuss what's been printed about her in the news of the world.
Hi, here to see Roddy.
There's been another attack that's made the front page of the Sunday Mirror.
It's a sensationalised front page I Blame Cheryl article. It's basically an interview with Carol Gascoigne, who's Paul Gascoigne's mother, who effectively blames everything that Paul has ever done on Cheryl. How you doing? You okay?
Fine, you?
Good to see you, yeah, not bad.
Jolly good. We're going to your office, Roddy. Where are we sitting? At this end?
I've pushed for... Well, let's start with the Sunday Mirror. So far they say no damages and no apology. And obviously the apology is the most important thing for you.
Yes, absolutely.
So I've gone back to them and said, look, that's going to be unacceptable to my client.
Well, do we make the next move?
The next stage is we have to go through a disclosure, witness statements, and then we'll have trial shortly
Disclosure
after
is all our evidence.
all our evidence. In your reply,
Yeah.
the other side have a right to look at any documents you refer to in that reply. So basically that's...
Well, have we got any right to ask for the documents that they have? Well, no, not that they've got any, but if they...
Well, no, they haven't referred to anything in their
No.
defence. That's why we haven't
It's
asked
funny,
for
that.
it. Yeah. Exactly.
The News of the World, if, like, the state plays, they've made it, and we've said, have we gone back at all to them yet? No, we haven't.
The News of the World?
Yeah.
We have said to them, because their defence was due on Monday.
Right, they've asked for an extension.
Yeah, they've asked for an extension, which I've given them.
One of the main frustrations in suing a newspaper is getting them even to reply.
They've had 4 weeks, but then all of a sudden, we can't get a response to you because it's Friday and it's got to print its paper at the weekend. Well, what about the 4 previous weekends?
And that's unfortunately the way it goes.
The timeline, it always seems so long, doesn't it?
It does.
And then especially it seems longer now because how many times they've asked for extensions.
Yeah,
it's just frustrating.
it's very frustrating, but it's the way papers work.
Every time it's delay. We want an extension of time.
I'm sure no court case is pleasant, but you have evidence to back up your claim. Can they substantiate everything that they've printed?
No, of course they can't. They've not come back with any evidence. They've had nothing. They've just come back with the same as what they printed. If it goes to court, it's basically my word against Paul's mum and 2 sisters, Jimmy Five Bellies and Paul. You do worry, there's like football fans on the jury and and that is, so you do. You only got to have like half of them that are football fans, and they wouldn't. They might just go, oh, poor Gaza, poor Paul. I just want to go back and just fight it all the way, in one breath. And then when I start thinking about, oh my God, facing them in court, they're quite intimidating, aren't they?
To help make her case as strong as possible, Cheryl's lawyer has asked her to trawl through hundreds of texts from Gaza. She's looking for hard evidence of what she says was the true nature of her relationship with him.
I'm so excited for tomorrow. So lovely clothes for you. He wanted to go shopping. So he wanted to buy me things. I have money and I have good money coming in. So I want to treat you as you have been very supportive in the last couple of months, and I love you. And my response is, I'm not supportive to get new clothes. I'm supportive because I live in hope that we can live together happily ever after. It's hard because they're quite personal, and I've got to I'm showing them to you, but it's almost like I have to do it to prove myself. They've printed it, I haven't said it, they're the ones that said it wrong, so why isn't the onus on them to prove?
In the Mirror article, Paul's family claimed that in order to make money, Cheryl had pushed Paul to take part in a Channel 4 documentary when he was just out of the Priory following a breakdown.
You haven't eaten again today.
I know, I should eat more.
So why don't you then?
Because I feel fat.
The documentary from very beginning was totally Paul's. They approached me They said, we really would like to do it. We want to see what it's like from a family's point of view to dealing with, alcoholism. I said, no, I don't think it's going to help Paul, and I don't want to do it. So I've said I was cancelling it, and in these texts he gets very angry with me because I've cancelled. So he keeps mentioning it, you've done it, so I'm not going to do this now, I'm not going to do that, I'm not coming to Regan School because you've cancelled the documentary. So it just shows that I didn't want to do it, it was totally Paul that wanted to do it.
Let's hope everything works out and just try and live a normal life. Cheers for now. See you later.
Gazza, at the end of the day, is a national hero. People don't want to hear the bad side of him. And if you can blame somebody else, then brilliant. Hence, I blame Cheryl on the front newspaper of one of the leading sellers in the country. People are going to look at it and they're going to buy the paper. They want to read the story. It would be very interesting to find out what their revenues are for things like this compared to what their liability is for damages. I think, I don't know, but I can imagine the balance would probably be on selling papers.
My defeat was probably the most shocking result of the evening in any part of the UK. I expected to win. The guy who beat me expected me to win. So something very strange happened in Montgomeryshire.
Lembit is now packing after 13 years representing this constituency in mid-Wales. In the weeks since the election, he's become more and more convinced it was how he was presented in the papers that was responsible for his defeat.
I don't think many people could have matched my performance in the House of Commons. I was actually the hardest working MP in 2009 from Wales. And all of that seems to have been springboarded from this acceptance that it was okay to run me down in those personal ways.
I might join you on the bench now.
Will you?
Yeah, it's a green bench, isn't it?
Now he's retired,
Forcibly
he can come
retired.
and sit here all day, can't he?
Yeah.
Joy Jones is a local politician. She and Lembit have been friends for years, but she's watched public reaction to Lembit with interest.
That's rubbish in there, so even the harmonica's not working properly.
There's a lot of things that have been said about him, especially about him being with a younger woman, that he was like a cradle snatcher and things that I wouldn't like to repeat, to be honest. People were unhappy about stuff that they'd read and the way they felt Lembit was acting. And obviously a lot of people believe what they see in the papers, and people say there's no smoke without fire, but also they should look at it as another way. It can be a smoke screen.
But back in London, Lembit's lawyer Charlotte Harris isn't finding the Sunday Times willing to apologise.
They've said, oh yeah, well it's all right, we can write what we like, we can present it in whatever way we like as long as we say that it's fair comment and opinion. But the damage has been done, the hurt has been done, and so given the way that libel law is moving, I don't think that we should just give up. We have to be tenacious with this. Unless you push the law, unless you push things and say, look, this isn't right, this isn't fair, you've got it wrong, then you know nothing will ever change and everything will stay the same. What you don't do is give up, because then you're giving people license to say what they like and cause immeasurable hurt and pain.
Have you finished your homework?
Yeah, I have actually.
Cheryl's now taking action against a third newspaper, The People. This time, Cheryl was portrayed as the bad mother, stopping Paul from giving their son, Regan, a Christmas present, or even seeing him.
Gazza's heartache. He really wants to spend some time with his lad, but Cheryl won't take his calls, and she keeps changing her number. Never changed my house number. We've heard nothing from Paul. And the friend said if he can't see his lad, we fear he will go on the bottle big time. So now it's Regan's fault. So it's gone from my fault to mine and Regan's fault. It's not on.
Saying that like she's a liar. Everything she does, she's lying about. She's been seeing loads of people. She's taken loads of money off, like my dad, which is completely, like, not true.
Oh, look at those boots.
It's not just Cheryl who has to live with the image that some of the tabloids have created.
I went to an all-girls school. I had, just girls just obviously giving me, comments about my mum, comments about me, obviously saying that we're all like just money grabbers. And at the time, I was just like, if you knew the truth.
You're proud of your mum?
Of course I'm proud of my mum, yeah. I don't want to get emotional. Yeah, it's hurtful. It's kind of just what you just want everyone to know that it's not the truth. But then at the end of the day, I've just kind of learned that, it's if you know the truth, then that's what matters. But over so long a time, it has affected us all. Yeah.
But there's been a breakthrough in the case against the News of the World. Cheryl's lawyer has asked her to come to London. The News of the World, who printed "She was a lying bitch," have agreed that's not the truth.
What's now happened is we've got an increased offer, which is good in terms of damages and costs, which is good. And they've also, more importantly, agreed to put in an apology, as well as the statement in open court.
Right, so
it's a statement read out before a judge in open court. It can then be reported on in the press, on the BBC website, and it gets picked up in other publications and that sort of thing.
Right.
Perhaps it might be better to read the statement in open court first.
Yeah.
It is here today by its solicitor to apologise publicly and unreservedly for the distress and embarrassment that the article has caused Miss Gascoigne. On the following Sunday, they will then print an apology. It will appear in no less a prominent position as the original article.
So they're going to have double page, Cheryl Gascoigne, apology. We got it completely wrong.
Unfortunately not. Much as I would love it to do that, unfortunately not.
Not the same prominence then?
Not the same prominence, but equally as prominent in terms of page numbers.
It's going to be what about that, isn't it?
It's annoying. It'll probably be squeezed in. The important thing is this will be on the file, so if anyone from the News of the World decides to write anything about you again, it'll immediately flash up. This is what's happened.
I'm really pleased, Roddy, with that.
I think the money that you have from them will obviously provide you with a decent fighting fund for the other one.
Yeah, exactly. That's why it's going straight into the fighting fund. Yeah.
Exactly.
So we got 30,000 in damages, and I think costs were 18.5. I think plus VAT. Okay, that's a good conclusion. What more can I ask for? I just want the world to know that they print lies about me. Yeah, that's it. Just up there on the left. Yeah. Today I've put on my Facebook. How sad is that? I never write a status on my Facebook, and I've written on it today. I'm in the High Court in London today to give an apology from the News of the World, because I want as many people to hear it as possible. Right, this way, yeah?
Yeah, just straight down.
Getting the apology read in court means it enters the public domain, allowing other papers to pick up the story.
Her recourse to libel is finally her sort of chance to put her side across and get the recognition that she needs, and the fact that these things have been untrue.
And the strategy is paying off. Within an hour of the court judgment, the news websites are covering the story.
It's massively valuable for us, because obviously we want to get across the fact that Cheryl's not an easy target. If you go after her, then with defamatory lies or whatever, then we'll come after them. It's as simple as that. That's what we want to do.
That's the main thing, isn't it? It's not even, it's like you want it printed, but the main thing is don't do it, stop now. Enough's enough.
Well done. Congratulations. So are you pleased that you went through all that?
Oh, good, yeah. The more evidence I got, it was like, even though I knew I was right, the more evidence I was going, you bloody well are right.
One libel battle won, 2 still to go, and the questions remain.
I mean, that case has cost them £50,000, so that must have hurt their pocket somewhere, but has it?
There's one what I sometimes do, it makes you look like Fiddler on the Roof.
With his MP salary gone, Lembit has to find other work. and that's why he wants to sue the Sunday Times. He's worried that his image in the press, that he feels cost him his seat, might also harm his chances of getting work in the future.
I do actually need to get a job, and that means that I need to have the kind of reputation which means people will employ me. And if they Google me and they find this kind of thing, there's a chance that that will materially harm my chances of getting a job in the private sector.
It's a wrap.
Tonight, Lembit has to audition in front of agents who book after-dinner speakers.
It's a kind of X factor for after-dinner speakers tonight. We're all on edge because, well, we want the jobs. Contained within my name is a great tragic irony. This is the most implausible anagram in history, actually. I like to be MP, and I have to live with that, though more likely, I think, the best way for me to get into Parliament now is I kill to be PM, talking about...
One of our main objectives this evening is to sort of show people there is actually another side to him. He's not just, dare I say, cheeky girls and weather presenters. He's actually got a serious side. He's got interest in the aviation industry, in the nuclear industry. We can talk about emerging, if you like, of celebrity culture and political culture, and how there is a cult of personality now, particularly in politics, whether you like it or not.
If you want somebody who can speak really about the human condition, and having had a pretty interesting experience of it myself, maybe I'm your person. My name's Lembit Opik. You've been a lovely audience. Thank you very much. Okay.
Lembit seems to go down well, which is good because money is tight. He can only continue with the libel case because his lawyer is willing to act on a no-win, no-fee basis. She believes in Lembit's case, but knows the newspapers have all the resources.
Good timing. How are you? Nice to see you. So I'm eating a banana.
So we look at the Rod Liddle article and we write to the Times to spend ages getting back. And the letter that they got back is not untypical of the kind of thing that you get from News International generally. What it says is, do you have the balls and are they big enough? That as far as they were concerned, our meanings are wrong, we shouldn't have even been offended by it. Basically, it's opinion. And that because it's written in an opinion column, that means that it's opinion.
Disappointing. But something happened a couple of days ago at the Liberal Democrat Party conference that only reinforces Lembit's will to take on the press.
At the conference, the Mail and the Mirror had photographers following me about. How do I know this? I walked right up to each of them and said, "What are you doing this for?" So, "I've been told to follow you around and take photos," unquote.
Does it just make you feel like you've got absolutely no control, that you are just this piece of public property and that they've got just no respect at all?
I was trying to talk about the mayoral election. I was trying to talk about changing nuclear policy for the party. And all they wanted to do is talk about whether I was going out with someone. It's not even an MP. Not even an MP. And they still carry on doing this.
Somebody like, Rod Liddle, who's writing the column, will say, yeah, well, the reason why people are asking you about it is because, after all, you did go out with this woman, and look, the fact that they're following you around and asking you questions about your personal life shows that you became a joke. And you want to turn around and say, no, you've got this the wrong way around. You created that, you intruded into my private life, you decided that that was what you were going to create, and now you're perpetuating the myth so that you can keep going, it's the wrong way round. The answer is...
But the boundary between public and private life is always being tested by the press. The challenge now is to find a barrister prepared to take it to court and work on a no-win, no-fee basis, like Charlotte.
But we have to decide whether or not we're able to throw money at it. We can't, okay? So, therefore, we need to go to another barrister and see if somebody will take it on a no-win, no-fee. That's not going to be easy.
If you haven't actually got the resources to stand up to these people, then we haven't got a free press, because you become a prisoner of what they write. It's as simple as that.
From my understanding...
On the surface, things are going better for Cheryl. The People said she kept changing her phone numbers to prevent Paul seeing their son Regan, but suing the paper has worked.
We've got the statement in open court and the report are now agreed. I say agreed. they're in a form.
So they've agreed that they've got it wrong.
It's in a form. It's in a form acceptable to MGN, which is good. So that's
good. As long as it's acceptable to MGN, that's fine then. Doesn't matter if it's acceptable to me. Won't apologise to Regan, which is disgusting.
Yeah, I mean, we can't insist on
I know
that,
that, but it's wrong.
He's not a party to the proceedings, and strictly speaking,
the whole article was about him.
But the article's not defamatory of him; it's defamatory of you.
But it's hurtful to Regan.
Of course, it's hurtful. I completely understand that, but it's not.
It wouldn't, what would it cost them to put in? We apologise. I don't care if they don't apologise to me. At least apologise to my son.
Again, there's no right for us to insist on the statement in open court.
See why?
Because it's the way the law is. There's no right for them to do it.
If they apologise to Regan, then I'll accept their original offer, because it's not just about the money.
That's probably not a bad way of doing it. Actually, I'll go back and give him the alternative.
But the real reason Roddy wants to speak to Cheryl today is to warn her about the costs that she will face if the Sunday Mirror won't settle and they have to go to trial in the High Court. Even if Cheryl wins, she won't get all her costs back.
If you won the trial, the usual rule is that you'd have your costs assessed on what's called the standard basis, which usually means you probably wouldn't recover any more than 65 or 70% of your costs. I think our cost estimate was roughly around, I think it was about 250 grand.
If I had to pay 40% of that...
Yeah, it'd be a significant amount.
But then my damages, the maximum damages I can get, they're not even going to cover my costs, are they?
The damages would be somewhere in the region, we think, of between 50 and 100 grand for this. Just simply because of the nasty nature of it.
It's going to cost me money. And that's my children's future. Yeah, my money is what I've worked hard to build up.
Completely agree. My view is that if you went to trial and you win, you should recover all your costs.
But why won't I?
Because you won't. That's the way it is. If a cost judge looks at papers, he'll look at your timesheet, for example, and then look at the letter and say, oh, you spent an hour on this. It should have taken half an hour.
Right. Well,
Judges never give lawyers what they ask for in their costs, but the lawyers still charge the client the full amount.
Whatever way I do it, the system is that it's going to cost me money.
Yeah, that's right. And it's frustrating. And
frustrating is not the word.
Frustration with it, but it's
disgusting.
It's the way it
It's disgusting. It's just a win-win situation for the newspapers. They've basically got the whole bloody thing sewn up.
It's typical for Roddy, because I know that he can't say, it is completely wrong, this system, but I can say it, but he can't. And I know that's probably maybe what he thinks at times, but it's easier for me to be able to say it and to get that across to people to see. It is unfair, and it's not a just system.
Lembit's passion for the strange two-wheeled Segway has landed him a job advising a group trying to influence the Department of Transport on them. But he is still short on funds. So his lawyer Charlotte needs to find a barrister prepared to take his case on a no-win, no-fee basis. These chambers are at the heart of the libel legal world, where fees start at hundreds of pounds per hour.
Hi, it's Charlotte. Obviously, William, Lembit's really upset about this, and there's a lot of really hurtful and damaging stuff in it. But it's whether or not we can technically successfully sue.
As a layperson, you read this, and in a sense it drips with malice, because Rod Liddell doesn't mess around in the wording he uses in talking about the Estonian loon, the miscreant.
Misshapen head.
The misshapen head. I mean, he has obvious contempt for Lembit Opik, but even that wouldn't pass the legal test for malice. You'd have to prove that Rod Liddell had other reasons for disliking Lembit Opik and just made this up purely to damage him. But my conclusion is it would be pretty much impossible to prove that Rod Liddell was malicious in the legal sense.
I don't think that this helps.
Former MP turned stand-up comedian Lembit Opik finds love again with drama student Marilyn McGivern. I assume he was paid for this.
I don't know.
We don't know. But he's volunteering to be in Hello magazine.
Well, now he's not an MP, he's free.
Yeah, but this is not dissimilar to his behaviour when he was an MP.
One of the things I get criticised for is seeking publicity. Well, let's look at that. I was in Hello recently with my new partner, Marilee, and that came about because we were being followed by a mirror photographer and a male photographer who were desperate to try and get a shot of us together doing something romantic. Now, this wasn't in the park, it wasn't in the evening, it wasn't invited, it was the Lib Dem Polly conference where I was trying to do politics. Now, once that starts happening, I know from past experience, it just gets bigger and bigger. So we end up talking to one magazine that's never libelled me, it's never done me down, and that's Hello. So, frankly, this was a direct consequence of the fact that we couldn't keep the genie in the bottle.
You can't get away from the idea that if Lembit was willing, if you like, to sup with the devil, to walk hand in hand with the media and to pose for those photographs, that he can't then complain about the fact he's got that sort of publicity.
The journalists used the excuse of high profile to act in a libelous way, in a way that you would never dream of talking to your neighbour or somebody else, because you would just know it wasn't acceptable. But apparently it's acceptable if you put it in a magazine.
It's very tempting to launch a legal action, but don't do it. If it's more likely than not, you'll end up inflicting on yourself even more damage.
The one and only Lembit Opik!
I want to thank a group of people without whom it would have effectively been impossible for me to appear before you tonight.
The voters.
Yep, 13,900 Conservatives in Montgomeryshire.
Every day of the week, there are hundreds of people up and down the country who open a newspaper and are just appalled about what the newspaper accuses them of. But very few of them, under English law, will actually have a chance of bringing a successful defamation claim. Undoubtedly, the resources at the disposal of the Times of Rod Liddell dwarf the resources that someone like Lembit Opik has. He can take a chance and go to trial, but if he loses, would be made bankrupt, lose their home, lose everything, whereas the Sunday Times can always withstand a loss. So that's the real advantage that the big news corporations have over individual claimants.
I used to be Lembit Opik. Good night.
Most libel claimants simply don't anticipate how frightening the costs of suing quickly become. £10,000 soon becomes £100,000. Yesterday, that message hit Cheryl in an email from her lawyer. She always knew going to court would be expensive, but not that she would have to find the money for her costs before the trial even started.
By no later than, say, the 30th of November, a figure of approximately 200,000 plus VAT would be to cover our costs. When I read it, I think I read it and walked away from it and just shut it out. And it wasn't for a couple of days, and I thought, I'm sure that said I've got to pay 200,000. I was sick, felt absolutely sick, and I thought, where am I going to get it from?
Cheryl's decided that there's only one way to pay a bill like that.
The estate agents come in at 3:30. They're going to put the board up.
Unfortunately, it's a bit more real when the board's up. It's a bit more of a realisation.
I think it might be a bit horrible, actually.
So what happens if the house doesn't sell within the time scale?
I don't even want to think about it. I can't
and
even
there's
think
no
about it.
other,
I've got to
no
wait until...
other way round it?
Not as far. Where else am I going to get that amount of money from?
It's like, look what you have to go through to, prove your point and saying that's not the case. And it's just easy for them just to print, rubbish without any evidence.
I know.
But the thing I find really sad about it is come the 20th of January, when you walk out of there having won your case, whilst admittedly you will get your costs and you might even get £5,000 extra, you have lost your family home because that's been sold.
The system is messed up. It's just incredibly...
I know.
So is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine.
I think that looks fine. Right, so these are your photos.
Right.
Let's run through from this one.
Oh, that's good.
Selling her family home is the last resort for Cheryl. All to help win a case she can't believe her ex-husband Paul will support.
Part of me thinks that he won't back this up because he knows it's lies. So I'd love to speak to him just for him to say, are you really going through with this? I don't believe in his heart of hearts he would want us to sell the house. Because he's not that bad a person and he's okay. I don't think he would...
Take it from here and then it shows the palms and that outdoory area and the...
Can we have a bottle of wine and a couple of glasses just on that
If we're going to do
and we'll
quite
just do
close
one little
shot,
close-up shot.
Okay.
that would look quite nice. I think.
Okay.
I think it's really, really sad because I know what this means to us. What it was when she very first started, how she's renovated the house. They're all very happy here. And that's it now, it's got to go.
See, if all else fails, I could get a job as a gardener.
I think she's being typical Cheryl, as in very matter-of-fact about it, but I think she's devastated.
It was a little bit later. It's got this best scenario is that the Sunday Mirror turn around and realise that they've got no evidence, they've got no case. Worst case scenario is it goes away to trial and I don't sell the house. Where am I going to get 200 grand from in November? That's worse.
It's my choice to carry on. I could stop now and think, right, okay, just lose, what, 70-odd thousand pounds. But then if I walk away now, then that's saying, yeah, you were right. And then what that means, and then it's like the floodgates are going to open. They're all going to print what they like again. Because, like, well, it can't be true because she's backed off.
In Lembit's case, the barrister has advised against pursuing the case. The Times could argue they had a legitimate defence in fair comment. It's time to make a risk assessment.
William's given us some advice, so I'm not happy is correct, but of course is correct. I just wish that it wasn't. The risks of this case outweigh the benefits of it. Your choices are, you go to court knowing that there's a massive hurdle on the fair comment side of it, and that if you lose, you have to go through the awfulness of paying the cost for the other side. It was the press who decided that that's who you were. It was the press that decided that that's how they would report on you. And so because of that, it becomes fair comment.
You're saying that because they've got millions of pounds and I haven't got a job, I lose.
What I'm saying is, actually, yeah, I'm saying that.
I just feel that what we've got here is a situation where I've actually played it by the book. I've bitten my tongue. I've accepted all of this rubbish.
But why don't we write about it? Why don't we do something?
What you're telling me then is I need to become a journalist and I need to write about journalists. I need to write about other newspapers. You're telling me that's what I need to do?
I'm telling you that maybe you should join the libel reform campaigns.
I have to take a different approach, and when I'm calmer I'll think about what that is, in terms of highlighting what's been done to me and so many other people. And the second thing is, woe betide the next person who libels me. Facts are obvious. I just haven't got the financial resources to take this risk. But I'm left with a feeling that the libel laws in this country don't work. Not if you're unwealthy. If you've got 2 million quid or a full-time legal staff, probably you can do quite a lot with the laws. But if you're me, then you just end up at the receiving end. And me is 65 million people.
Lembit has had to fold, but Cheryl's still fighting the Sunday Mirror. Searching for evidence for her witness statement has taken Cheryl and her lawyer weeks of work. But looking through the original tapes shot for the surviving Gaza documentary has paid off.
Well, there were like 1,000 of these tapes, each that were probably about an hour and a half, 2 hours long. And I just went through them, all of them, until Hallelujah, I found what I was looking for. He rang me at 5:30 this morning. And,
The tape shows Cheryl speaking to Paul's mum, Carol. But in the Sunday Mirror publications, Carol stated that she'd not spoken to Cheryl for years.
But obviously I know you're worried. Have you told John? You can see I'm writing things down and I'm talking to her, and she's basically begging me to do something. I'll ring you back. I will. All right. Okay, don't worry. All right. Bye. She said I hadn't spoken to her at all for 8 years or something ridiculous, whereas this proves that she was ringing me beforehand. I have to do something to help her because she's beside herself. You know, to me that was just like gold dust, because it just blew that whole thing about I've never spoken to her. There's my proof.
On the other hand, Cheryl's house is still not selling.
One minute I think, oh, that's good, no one's come to see the house, and then I think, oh no, what if, what am I going to do when the bill comes up? If I did sell the house and then 2 weeks later they turn around and went, oh, actually, yeah, we realised we got it wrong, sorry about that, I don't know, I'd be devastated.
In fact, it didn't even take the Sunday Mirror 2 weeks to admit they'd got it wrong. So today, Cheryl and her family are in London to hear how her final claim has turned out.
This one, they fought all the way until we were about to exchange witness statements. And then for whatever reason, they decided to put in an offer. We don't know why they put in an offer. We're assuming that the difficulties they had with getting their evidence from the Gascoignes, and Paul presumably sort of pushed them into a corner. They agreed to say all the 3 allegations that made up our claim were all untrue, which is exactly what we wanted them to do.
Does that mean only us are there?
That means only us are there. It's like,
and no representative on there for...
And it's just them sort of saying, well, we've just withdrawn from the case. They're paid all the damages, they're paid your costs.
Yeah, exactly.
In this case, Cheryl has decided to accept the lower damages of £30,000 to win the right to have her name cleared again in open court.
She wasn't in a great financial situation, but she wanted to see this through. This is very, very important for her. It's a good result at the end of the day. Now we can draw a line under it, which is great, which is exactly what we wanted.
Last one.
Woo! Congratulations, Mum. It has been well worth
thank
it.
you for being here. I'm glad you're here. Wish
well
to see you.
done.
And if anybody asked me for advice, I'd say, if something's been printed about you and it's not true and it upsets you, sue. Go in this if you want justice, some sort of justice, not full justice, and you want it to stop. That's the main thing. If you want it to stop, then go all the way.
But like most libel claimants, Cheryl hadn't anticipated just how far that would take her financially.
It costs you to vindicate your name at the end of the day, which is, it's a shame, but it's the way the legal system is at the moment. Especially when you're against newspapers who have, sort of very deep pockets.
Don't go into this thinking you're going to earn money, because I certainly haven't. If I had lost, I would have lost probably £600,000 at least. Who's winning? It's the law that's wrong on this, the libel laws that are wrong.
See you in court next Tuesday at the same time, 10:35. Next tonight on BBC One, Lenny Henry and celebrity friends, famous, rich and in the slums with comic relief.